And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the ToolBelt episode 294. I am your host, Ty Backer, and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. We will be right back after a short intro from our sponsors.
Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
Welcome to Behind the ToolBelt, where the stories are bold, the conversations are real, and the insights come to you live, raw, and uncut. Every week, host Ty Cobb Backer sits down to bring you the stories, the struggles, the lessons learned, and the wins. No filters, no scripts, just the truth. Please welcome your host of Behind the ToolBelt, Ty Cobb Backer.
Hey. And we are back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Behind the ToolBelt. I am your host, Ty Cobb Backer. And today, I'm rolling solo to talk about something that sits at the core of everything we do, right? 4 topics: leadership, responsibility, vision, and company culture. These 4 things are more than buzzwords. They're the foundation of every successful business, especially in the trades. And for those of you that listen to me, know that I talk a lot about, leadership, culture, vision, and all these things. And it seems like over the past, 44 days, these were some things that I really dove into, and I got to experience some things. It's funny how God works. I got to see myself in other people, and I've learned a lot from it, and I've learned a lot of what not to do. I've learned a lot about what to do under certain circumstances and how to treat others. So I thought today, would be a good day to talk about those 4 topics, responsibility, the vision, and company culture. So whether you're a business owner, a manager, or just someone who's passionate about growth, I think this one's going to be a good one for you. And leadership, it's a huge buzzword, that everyone's using today. And really what it comes down to, it's the stewardship and how we carry ourselves and the impact that we want to have on those around us. And a lot of it has to do with serving. Even though we're using the word leader, it really pertains to servantship, not necessarily leadership. And quite frankly, the leadership is the engine that's behind all of this. It isn't a title, it's a responsibility. And my journey over the years has been a wild journey. I've led with an iron fist. I've led with my hands too far off the wheels. I've led with not setting expectations and boundaries. I've been walked on. I've been stepped on. I've stepped on. I've walked on others. I've belittled others. I've done other people wrong. I've done a lot of good. I've done a lot of bad over the years. And, I've had a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, more than just this past 44 days of the challenge. And what I've discovered is it comes down to what I'm doing personally on a personal level, taking care of myself. And we talk a lot about personal development and what I do behind closed doors when nobody's watching, right? Or probably most importantly, when people are watching and I don't know they're watching, and I got a story where this along this journey where this is where it started to really become more about other people and not so much about myself and the company, but more so for other people. It was 2011, and some of you may have heard me talk about this before, but it was 2011. And insurance laws were changing, and we had a decision to make. We had to decide whether we were going to keep people as 1099, and I'm talking about in-house, service techs, gutter installers, window installers, our in-house team. We are technically a construction company. We're not a paper contractor. We actually employ people that do the work. And I'm not saying we don't use subs. We do use subcontractors that predominantly only work for us and get trained by us and follow the rules. And whether it's health and safety standards or quality standards, they all get the certifications and the training. That way they can articulate the same performance that our in-house guys would. But we had a decision to pull them off of being a 1099 contractor or bring them in as W-2 employees. And it was a tough decision because it cost a lot of money to do that. And not just for us, but for those that, we're paying money to. So if we're paying somebody $20 an hour and they're having, 20 to 40% taken off their check, on a week-to-week basis, that's a hit for them. And then on top of which we have to pay, workers' comp, general liability, unemployment, and workers' comp being in the space that we're in is about 25 cents per every dollar that we pay someone. We have to pay 25 cents, somewhere between 25 to 12 cents. So in theory, it's really costing us an extra $5 an hour to pay someone $20 an hour. It's costing us $25 an hour to cover, all those things. But what solidified the decision to do this was that, if somebody did get injured, we'd have workers' comp, they'd be covered. If we would have to lay somebody off, they would be covered also by unemployment compensation that way too. So it's kind of like, what, I think the risk, I think the reward is worth the risk, especially for those that work for us. So what we elected to do, and I actually discussed some of this. Hunter wrote a book, his last book. I wrote a little bit about this. I can't think of the name of his book right this second, but great book. It's got a bunch of us successful entrepreneurs in that book, but I touched a little deeper on this. So we elected to go that route. But what, not only did we do that, it planted the seed, where it was like, man, how great would it be? Not only are we offering, we can offer overtime, we can offer, unemployment and workers' comp and, all these things, but how badass would it be if we could offer health insurance? That's kind of where that seed was planted for me. And this was 2011. So we went all in. We put everybody on the books. We took a hit, of course we did, but what it did was, it did so many things. One, I could sleep better at night knowing if anybody got hurt or injured or anything like that, that we were covered, they were covered, all that good stuff. But it planted the seed to want to provide, health insurance. And then I started thinking even bigger. It was like a 401k and all these things. So, we went to work and we did that. But anyhow, that was a turning point for me, where it wasn't just about trying to make ends meet for us, but trying to help and make ends meet for everyone else around us. And I'm not saying that I didn't have that attitude and I didn't pour into everybody back then, but it's just funny how things happen, sometimes forcefully, and sometimes, we have a good idea, and we go for it, like the health insurance. So it helped us attract better talent. It helped us retain people who have been with us since then. We still have people that back then that still work for us today, and so that was one of those moments along my journey here, a growth moment for me, personally and professionally. So, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we went that direction. What's happening, guys? Good to see you guys. Leonard and Zach and John and Victor, David, Bruno. Good to see you guys. So, but anyhow, of course, there's a whole lot that has happened since then. Good mistakes, bad mistakes, but all have been learning experiences. And one of those decisions that I decided to make was, go on this personal development and pushing myself and pushing my mind and stretching my mind and all those things. So I started picking up a lot of books, and one of those books, and I think I talked about it last week, was The Energy Bus by John Gordon. And I'll honestly say, that has changed and solidified the way that I lead today. And if I didn't express this enough last week, everybody should be and can be a CEO, the Chief Energy Officer. Your team reflects, our team reflects my energy. Okay. And it radiates on to others, where they walk out of the room and then radiate that energy, right? Your team reflects that energy. If I show up unmotivated, consistently, so will they, and that's something I learned that early on, and unfortunately I radiated a lot of negative energy. I feel like maybe I was unapproachable. I was angry most of the time. I don't even know what the hell I was angry about. Actually, it was fear. I was fear driven, and the way that I covered up my fear was through anger. And through my journey of personal development, I had discovered that I was a fear driven person, and I didn't want anybody to know that I was fear filled. So I led with an iron fist, my way, the highway. And I thought the only way to get my point across was to, raise my voice and be the loudest in the room and speak over people and set things in motion that way. And then to come to find out, I was losing a lot of respect from people. And I feared to fail. I did not want to fail. I felt like there was a lot of eyes on me and a lot of people holding their breath. And I hope no longer. I hope they aren't holding their breath any longer, because that'd been a hell of a long time for them to be holding their breath. But I got to show up motivated, and this is what's cool with the team that we have today. If I do happen to show up unmotivated, the team, there's been enough energy, stored up, and I've talked about the trust bank being built up, where every now and then I can take a withdrawal from that trust bank and not lose trust. But the same thing works with energy. There's an energy bank, and sometimes it gets depleted, but then because of that energy bank being so full all the time, that energy has been able to radiate onto my coworkers and my co-leaders, where they in turn can radiate that good positive energy into those that are under their lead. And some of the ways that I've tried to, keep that energy, because it's been a long time. We've been doing this shit a long time, right? And to suit up and show up day in and day out, I think most people in my position would be looking for a way to exit or get out. But I always feel like that I'm continuously, I'm just getting started. And Vic and I and Baker and a few of us, and John and Brian Good, by the way, who's crushing it down in Greenville for the past month. It's because of those, men and women, that we have surrounded ourselves with, that really truly make our culture today. But that had to start somewhere, right? And I have to on a day-to-day basis, like just a little bit ago, I did a cold plunge. I had to take a cold plunge, and that's something along my journey here, my personal development journey, I've learned really helps stimulate my mind, and along with all kinds of other health benefits that does, by signing up for challenges and by pushing myself and figuring out what works and what doesn't work and what motivates me, what gets the creative juices going, and re-recruiting the team, and surrounding myself around other entrepreneurs or leaders, and listening to what they're actually saying, and stay learning. Like, I have to stay learning, on a day-to-day basis. I have to remain a student. And if I don't, if I'm not growing, I'm going. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard that quote before, but I choose today to keep learning, and know that I don't know everything. And what's cool is that when you're learning more from your team, that's when you know that you have a genuine culture and a great group of men and women that you have surrounded yourself with. But leadership, a lot of leadership is also about clarity, and this is something that most recently, it's been brought back to my attention through some certain situations of not having or articulating clarity. People don't follow confusion, right? They follow vision. Unfortunately, with having an amazing team, there can be a little bit of confusion. There can be a little uncertainty. There can be a little bit of a lack of vision from circumstances and changes and uncontrollable events that no one could predict might happen. Or when I'm not around, right? The team, right? Because the vision has been casted, the energy has been built up, the trust bank is full. You get a group of men and women that help carry you through that, but that doesn't give me the right to panic or freak out or make the situation worse, right? Because nobody, again, can follow confusion. They like decisiveness, and again, having a great group of men and women, you can have a little bit of uncertainty, but you can't have it for long. Okay. If the vision isn't clear at the top, it's going to be cloudy the whole way down. And casting the vision is one of the most, and I can't emphasize this enough, is one of the most powerful tools as a leader can possess. All right. Not just for setting direction, but to inspire belief and action. If you want your co-leaders, which I want my co-leaders to drive the company forward, they must first catch the vision. Okay. Then they need to own it. And finally, they need to carry it on to others. Right. And that's what I've been trying to explain, and I'm saying this out loud so I can actually hear it. Okay. And again, like I said, this has been brought to my attention again. God seems to work in mysterious ways sometimes, and be reminded that people are inspired by purpose and not necessarily processes, right? Because you can have the greatest processes, you can have $1 million worth of SOPs and KPIs, but if your culture is poop and if you're surrounded by a bunch of shitheads, doesn't matter about SOPs, KPIs, because no one's going to follow that shit anyhow, right? So I read a book. Imagine that. I read a book a while back, and I've read it several times. And Start with Why, okay, by Simon Sinek. And people like to know the why and not necessarily the what. People don't buy into what you do. They buy into why we do it, right? Why are we doing this? And I think Simon said it some other way, but you know, at at the beginning of our meetings, at least the ones that I'm involved with, especially the global meeting that we have, we start the meeting with the vision of the company. And what I mean by that is that somebody is elected to read one of our core values. It basically explains why the company exists beyond profit. Who are we serving? What impact are we making? The vision must flow through at every level. And I know at times we as a company struggle to get that vision, especially out into the field, and that's something again that's been brought to my attention, that I've been reminded of, that it's one thing for all of us, sales managers, salespeople, all the administrative help, to eat, live, and breathe the culture, but sometimes there's a disconnect between us and our field guys. And I got to hang out with a few of them a week or two ago. A group of us went golfing, and then we went golfing again, and then I got a couple of them out fishing, and I was reminded again, like 3 different times in like a 2.5 week period of time, where it's like we have a disconnect where our purpose, our why, after listening to a certain individual, like, damn it, like I completely missed the mark here. You know what I mean? And it's important. Like the golf tournament, right, was for York Builders Association. And I can see where somebody standing on the outside looking in, wondering like, well, shoot, that's a Thursday. Like, shouldn't you guys be working? I could see where someone on the outside couldn't see the importance of us participating in a local builders association that we were actually invited to, right? Because I used to, early on in my career, I used to avoid public engagements or invitations to participate in things, and didn't understand the power of networking, didn't understand the power of representation of your company, and ignoring those invitations, where there becomes a disconnect between you and the community, because of ignoring those things and not participating in those things. And quite frankly, we want to be a huge part of the community, and the York Builder Association is one of those outlets, one of those conduits for us to really, really get involved with the community. So that's why we didn't have to go, but we elected to go. We had 2 foursomes. We brought one of our manufacturers with us. So again, we're networking. Our team got to meet our shingle rep, got to meet our siding rep, which on a day-to-day, especially being out in the field, they just know we use these products, but they don't know who services us. with these products. That, and we got to experience a great day and camaraderie and fellowship and build our culture. Okay. And again, I'm pretty big part involved with, the Builder Association. Um, and Vic, I'm going to throw this out there, but I'm being elected for 2026 to be the president, and there's going to be a big old party, the inauguration, and we got to get 50 to 70 of us to show up to this thing to celebrate, because they're going to let a knucklehead like me be the president. So that's why we have to attend these things and bring our people. This is our company. I am proud of the people that I work with to these events and to these functions, and they hear so many great things about us. Well, it's not me. It's these guys over here that's out here tearing up the golf course with me, right? That's why we do these things. So having a conversation with one of our production guys, I had realized that, this, what our why is, it's like we're not just putting roofs on people's houses. We're putting dignity over people's heads. We're building a reputation our kids can be proud of here, right? Like this is what we're doing here. And roofing and shingles and siding and windows and gutters and gutter guards and solar is just the vehicle for us, right? To put dignity over people's heads and participate in the community. Get ourselves out there. It's like, I'm done hiding. I'm done being humble. Like we need to get ourselves out there and be more part of the community, and not just administratively, not just our sales people, not just our sales reps, but everybody involved. So what's Ben saying here? He said, come up with a plan. 1, come up with a plan. 2, give simple, clear. Yeah. There you go. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. You know what I mean? So a muddy vision leads to fuzzy execution, right? Boil the vision down to a single sentence that can be repeatable by every leader, co-leader, manager. Avoid buzzwords. Be clear, human, and compelling. Okay. Repetition creates retention. Say it often, right? And just for an example of a vision statement, right? We're here to be the most trusted name in roofing by delivering quality, building leaders, and giving back to our community. Like, remember that, right? Everybody in the company should know that. That's what we're doing here. In a nutshell, that is our core values, right? We're here to be the most trusted name in the roofing industry by delivering quality, building leaders, and giving back to our community. Okay. And again, all of this stuff, as I've been reminded over the past several months, and that's kind of the reason why Vic and I elected to do the Fearless 44, So, and I got to make sure too that it's getting down, from me to co-leader to team, right? We just can't tell them what to do. We have to show them where we're going and how they fit into it. I need, in phrases that I've used in the past is, hey, I need your help. Or can you do me a favor? But one of the most powerful things that I say all the time is everybody's job is so important. Your job is so important that the person sitting next to you has a job. Okay. They have to understand, and again, being reminded the vision, why we exist. Okay. Your job, your existence, you being here is so important. Doesn't matter what position you hold within the organization, is going to impact positively or negatively. If you're doing a shitty job, it's going to have a ripple effect. If you're doing an amazing job, it's going to have a ripple effect. And that's why we have to get everybody rowing in the same direction. Okay? Felt like Vic, you said something here. Servant leadership is the foundation of all our missions. We're here to support each other and be there for each other. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no other reason why we're here. So, but the important part of this is it can't be just me screaming from the rooftops, hey, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Everyone that I've surrounded myself with, whether it's Ben, whether it's Brian, whether it's Lee, whether it's Glenn, whether it's Lauren, Zach, Kim, Sam, Sammy, Chris Baker, everybody, they have to fully understand the vision. Okay. So then when I'm not there, okay, I shouldn't have to be there. I should be able to sit in another room and have that vision casted, whether it's a new hire coming on, okay, which I've got to actually experience some of that too, where the vision has been casted well enough, the message has been clear enough. I've overheard our team saying the same words verbatim that have come out of my mouth, okay, and also invite feedback, right, from your co-member, but co-members, right. Buy-in starts with being heard, right? Anybody that feels like they're a part of, they're empowered, and they're being heard, right? And again, what do you think? I use that all the time, and you decide. I heard Craig Rochelle say that on a podcast one time, and I thought, you know what, I'm stealing that. But I've had people come in, they're like, hey, I got this, and right away I'll say, you decide. You get to decide. No better way to empower another human being to take ownership and feel trusted, right? Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be trusted, and feel part of something, right? Like, I think when we feel part of something, you know, and it makes the mission, they understand the mission, they feel a part of it, they're more apt to work harder. And I know that's how I feel. So hopefully they're passing the vision down, right? Because a vision without transfer is just a dead end, right? And that's where it's good to surround yourself around good, like-minded people who are in it to win it and ready to kick ass and take names. You know, and this is the cool thing too. You know, when it's being articulated by Vic, by Brian, by Ben, by Glenn, right? I think you know, hearing them say it, I think it can be more powerful having them say it, right? Not just me talking shit, or, you know, it's, you know, we get fed that line of shit all the time at the last 3 places that I've worked before. But I think when it's their voice and not mine, it's more powerful. And where this takes place, right, or where it should take place is, you know, every sales meeting, every crew meeting, every team huddle, any job site is an opportunity or a chance to reinforce the culture. And I'm emphasizing, you know, team huddles, safety meetings, and job sites. You know, Corey, if you're listening out there, or anybody that's out in the field, whether you work for us or not, job sites is a good place to, you know, galvanize, you know, why we're here, right? Like, let's not get it twisted. You know, I think sometimes we get so complacent where we just show up, it's just another roof, it's just another gutter job, and it's like, no, it's way bigger than that. There's so many different facets that this touches, right? So we need to get better. I know we need to get better at that, you know. You know, and like I talked about earlier, it's like, you know, these small little tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis creates such big results. You know, all these little micro things that we do. You know, I've had the pleasure of fishing with somebody who who has a lot more experience than I do. And it's not that he just does one thing that makes him an outstanding fisherman. It's all these little micro things that he does that adds up. That makes the difference of either putting 5 fish in a boat or 25 fish in the boat. From doesn't matter on how he, what line he uses, to how he attaches the main line to the leader, what hooks he uses, how he ties his hooks on there, which direction he schnells his hook, to what, all of it, all these little micro things, right? That give us those big results. Like when Brandon shows up early and handles customer service and things like that he's making sure that everyone is taken care of. Like I don't think anybody takes that into consideration. Brandon is one of the people that show up super duper early before his team gets there, right? And it might not sound like a big thing, like getting up before the sun gets up, but he gets in there, he checks all his emails, he goes through, replies back to his emails, and I'm sure he's on the phone all day long communicating with supervisors and his teammates and stuff like that. But by him doing that, he's enabling those to continue to have a job. They have a job today, right? Because of him doing that one little micro thing, getting there early, replying back to emails. He's keeping the customers happy. He's providing work for the team that's coming in, to get out there in hopes that they do a good job. So then he looks good, right? Like, so there's like this ripple effect. Like, they may not have met Brandon, which I'm sure everyone has met Brandon, but let's just say the client has never met Brandon. The team that goes out there now becomes the face of the company. Okay. So their presentation, their performance now becomes the brand of the company. Okay. That's their first impression and will be their last impression, right? Even though Brandon may have been the first impression because of how quickly he responded, he got it on the schedule. But realistically, when that team shows up, they get out there, they look good, their presentation looks good, they do a good job. We don't get a call back. We don't have to go back out and fix whatever it was that they thought we fixed, or whatever the case might be. We go out there, we knock it out of the park. Then the team, that team member's the brand, but then that client, that homeowner, that customer becomes our brand later. So I really wanted to dive into a little bit of that ripple effect. So, but then also we need to celebrate those wins, right? So if we crush it out of the park, or closing rates were up, team did a good job, we serviced a lot of people, and because of the high closing rate last quarter, we were able to donate money to and I'm just trying to pull something out of my ass here as an example of, like, if by celebrating the win that we get to either go someplace, we get to do something, or we get to donate to the food well pantry, right? Something that has to do with the mission, the vision of, like, why we exist, right? Because you guys have done such a great job. We're able to host the 21 Turkey Salute with very little donations. Okay. And I've tried to, over the years, and I think we do a pretty good job of it, is articulating that vision and making a vision a big part of our everyday lives and a big part of our meetings. Like I said, I think we start our weekly meeting or monthly meeting or quarterly meetings, at least, and I'm sure on the micro meetings with the finance team and sales team and all those guys, they start the meeting with a 30-second, I'm going to call it a vision check, right? Like, this is why we're here. This is our core values, and I know Ben does a great job. And Brian does well too, is celebrating team members. And I know Baker does too. We do shout outs at our meetings, right? Celebrate the team members who are living out the vision that week. And I don't think we do that enough, and we should probably do that more often. But I do know, and I'm probably thinking we don't do it enough, but it probably happens more than I know. And then at the end of the meeting, I always try to remind them, where we're going and why it matters. Even when I'm going through it and I'm in my own shit, that helps me pull my head out of my butt. And I have conversations with Vic all the time. It's like, man, I forgot. Sometimes I get so caught up in the fire drills that I forget why we're here, what the hell we're doing. Like, why are we even doing this shit anymore? And one of my jobs, which is to empower our co-leaders, is to be vision carriers. Okay. They got to carry, our co-leaders must go from being task managers to culture carriers, right? Teach them, how to speak the language of the vision, right? Practice it, I think by saying it over and over and over and over, and I think we've done a good job of that, at every meeting or, any one-on-one that I might have, I try to articulate, the vision, like why we're here, why we're doing this. It isn't, we were never a money-driven company. Very rarely do I bring up, which I probably should more often than not, is talk about the profits and stuff. And that's the other thing too. It's like somewhere along the line, I think profit has become a bad word, but without profit, we can't donate. Without profit, we can't bring in more people. We can't market. We can't brand. We can't retain. We can't recruit. We can't train. All of that stuff takes money. And when we're good at all that upfront stuff that I was talking about earlier, money, it comes. Like we get gifted, we get blessed. It's a tip at the end of the week. And it seems to always just work out. And what I need to probably do is start asking the question, how are you carrying the vision, to your team today? I should probably make it a part of the KPIs, because it's not just about the production. It's about the influence, so anywho, people follow energy and believe if you're enthusiastic, right? I've learned to be the most passionate person in the room. Celebrate progress loudly, right? Make wins visible, and remind everybody that, your tone becomes their tone, right? So my tone becomes Brian's tone. My tone becomes Vic's tone. My tone becomes Baker's tone, right? And then there should be that ripple, that trickle down effect, and then there's the other side of it. What happens when we don't cast the vision, right, on a regular basis? Because I've fallen back again. I've been reminded, right? I default back to putting out fires. I become a fireman, right? And I've seen that happen to my co-leaders, where instead of building something bigger, right, we become firemen. We show up. Team members become transactional. They just do the job. They punch the clock. And really, that's not the atmosphere that I'm trying to create. That was never my intentions, was just to have people show up and clock in and clock out and just do a job. I wanted them to know how important their job was. They need to know how important it is. They will do better unknowingly because they know what they're doing is affecting other people. So that's kind of where I've been, like, for a while now. So anyhow, lead with why, right? Connect to purpose, clarity, and repeat, right? A sticky a sticky, simple statement, like I had mentioned earlier. Invite ownership, like I said earlier. What do you think, or you decide? Vision must be caught, not taught. I heard that a long time ago. I don't know if that was from Ed Milet, or who that is. That's where I always say, lead by example. To the point where now Brandon is the first one, Denny is the first one in the office. Kim is probably one of the first people actually in the office, not the shop. Chris Baker, he's there. If I wouldn't have done that early on, do you think that the start time at the office would be at 6:00? No, it would be at 8:30, 9:00, like whenever anybody wants to show up. That's not, it's because we've led by example. We've been consistent. I've invited that ownership, at least I hope so. I hope so. Right. Connect task to impact. Daily work fuels the mission. Everything everybody's doing on a day-to-day. John, his marketing skills and talent, right? That allows the phone to ring. He understands that the phone ring, our project consultant goes out, he or she finds the issue with the homeowner's house. We fix it up for them. We give them safety, security. We create a healthy environment. We put a roof over their head. We add gutters. We put more windows in that are energy efficient. They save on cost, right? That impact. Go out, find a solution, provide value, right? And then we get a tip. We get a tip from that. We get to do other amazing things for each other. We get to do other amazing things for our community. And that shit's contagious, right? That I feel is very contagious. When we show up at the home shows, I think a lot of people want to be a part of that. That energy that we bring to events, home shows, roofing conventions. I think a lot of people either we've inspired them to want to be like that. We encourage them to want to be better. We set a different standard. We raise the bar, or they want to be a part of that. And that's an awesome place to be. And I'm not saying that we're necessarily trendsetters. We're just actually doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're doing the next right thing. And all that good stuff, but it all comes down to, I go back to that CEO part again, right? Show up with the energy. Belief is contagious. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, man. Like I was saying earlier, you can have all the greatest strategies and the SOPs and the plans, a great plan, right? If you don't have a good culture, man, when plans change and things go south, that's where you get defined. Either you freak, you panic, people quit. That will show you right away, real quick, on how great of a team you have right there. So, culture is built, one decision at a time. How our team treats our customers, how we treat each other is really, how we treat each other is really all that matters. And the difference between a workplace and a winning team, is the culture, not KPIs and not SOPs. It's the culture that we have. A strong culture will outlast anything, and I can't even express my gratitude towards the team right now. But strong culture, helps with recruiting and retaining, the right people. A good culture attracts talent. All that good stuff. So I guess the bottom line is that, lead with vision, lead with purpose, build a brand that that people can trust, okay, and create a culture that people want to be a part of, right? If we are doing these things consistently, I don't care what business you're in, you're going to win. And we are winners. Everybody on this team, man, we have crushed it, and it's because we've continuously done the right thing. We've created a group of people, whether they knew it or not when they joined this thing, that are set on a mission. Brian told me today, he's like, I'm fighting the good fight, and he is too, and that's amazing. I know he's getting shit done down there without me micromanaging stuff. So it's good stuff. Anyhow, so I think we're about 50 minutes into this. I guess wrap this thing up here. Put it in a nutshell. If today's episode of Beyond the Tool Belt, has given you any hope or inspiration, I hope that this gives you some real clarity and confidence on how to lead better. I know it has for me. Build a stronger brand, and with purpose, with consistency and responsibility. With leadership comes a lot of responsibility, right? The responsibility of, not the, you hear people say, "Oh, well, work anybody," and now when I hear I'll outwork everybody, now I look at somebody and I wonder if they really know what that means. The standard is what the standard is. Like, do you really know what that means? Because it takes a lot of work. It takes more work to do this thing right than it does wrong. So let's not outwork anybody to step on people, to screw them over, to lie, manipulate, steal for selfish and self-centered, selfish leadership purposes, right? Let's be responsible and create a company culture worth fighting for, which I've got to experience that lately, and the team's fighting like hell. Remember, leadership isn't about the loudest person in the room. The standard is shut your face. It's about being the clearest. Your vision matters, your energy matters, and how you show up every day shapes everything around you. It truly does. So if this episode fired you up, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow business owner or a leader who needs to hear it, and make sure you're subscribed. Like, love, share it, get it out there. Okay. And don't miss what's coming up next. Next week, we have Deshaun Bryant, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. And until next time, keep leading with purpose, keep building with pride, and keep showing up. The world's what's possible when you do the right thing the right way every time. Until next week, you guys take care of each other. We're signing out. Have a good day, everybody.